So a little bit different to the Mr. Universe Meets podcast. We've decided to do something that we've been doing a little bit for the group, really, haven't we? You know, we've already been doing stuff like this for the Mansformation group, but we wanted to put it out there to public and show a little bit about what we're doing. So the goal here really is to kind of pick a different topic every month or week or however long we end up committing to this for, and then actually, just breaking that down and going through that every single week. And we've been doing these for a while now on the group, haven't we? So,
yeah, well over a year.
Yeah, exactly. So we're probably not going to run out of topics to talk about. There's always something that we can be talking about that the guys can be improving, and hopefully this is going to be a source of information for anyone that is stuck, and not in the best habits when it comes to the training, the nutrition. We're going to go wider than that. We've got sleep and all this sort of stuff, but we wanted to start right at the beginning with planning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, James is head coach on the Mansformation, and that's where we start, really, isn't it? We start with a planning session and talk us through, mate, why it's important for us to start at that point.
I think obviously when I first come into Mansformation, didn't we? We started, it was quite like fill in a questionnaire, we'll go for it. I think you kind of get the basic level information, you give them a plan. And the reason we wanted to do the planning call was to get to know someone on a deeper level, see what they actually need, see what the biggest time restraints are currently, and where we can actually piece in what we want. Because obviously, busy guys, not everyone's got the space and time in the week to do what we might recommend. So it's a case of what can we actually fit to get the necessary results. So planning session, obviously, before someone comes on a call, I will send them a questionnaire in the app that we use for our Mansformation app. That will give me a little bit of information. I will just use that then 30 to 60 minutes to go deeper into a little bit of the points that they've touched on. So what are the time restraints? What are we actually spending time on that we don't need to spend time on? So like, what can we take out to give us a little bit more time back? How many times a week do we need to train to actually reach the necessary goal? And I think obviously that then gives me the information, also learning and building a bit of camaraderie with the client to go back and say, right, this is the best way that I see fit. Again, a misconception that we do get when clients come in, it's like, how many times a week can we train? And I ask them that question openly, and most of them turn around and say 7. And it's like, yeah, from what you've just described, you ain't got 7 days spare. So it's like really just setting them realistic expectations from the outset, because what we've experienced and what we know is, I think within them first couple of weeks, it's vital to see how much progress someone's going to make. So if you go for 7 sessions and you miss one, you've deemed that first week as a failure. So it's really just looking at stacking them wins up and getting consistent and hitting something 100% all the time to really just level up where you are in terms of confidence and self-belief. So it's just, again, going a little bit deeper and getting to know that person and their life of what sees fit. So when we give them something, it's not just overwhelming, and it's like, have these actually listened? Do they actually know who I am?
Well, I think it's right. Like you said, that's a great point. Like setting realistic expectations off the bat, it makes a lot of sense. But also, if we want to make a plan frictionless, or if someone's doing this at home and they're doing it on their own, they want to make a plan frictionless and as least hurdles as possible. You've got to understand exactly what you're doing in the week and how you can work this around. Because, if like you say, if you try to do too much and you overcommit, you just end up burning out a little bit. And there's so many people that want to overcommit because they're full of motivation right now. They've just signed up for a program, or they've just decided, actually, I'm going to go make a change here with my fitness, my physique. I'm going to clean my nutrition up, whatever it is. They're fired up to do it. So they want to do more. And they also want to get the result as fast as they possibly can. So it makes sense for them in their heads to push hard and to do it, as quickly as they possibly can and do as much as they possibly can. But 9 times out of 10, that's going to lead to burnout, right?
Yeah. And I think our job as coaches is ultimately to bring them back down to the reality. And like you've said, like motivation, so I've signed this format, I've reached out, I want coaching. And it's like, I think people do have the misconception that they're going to pay us the monthly fee and we're just going to tell them to do everything. Like, that's not sustainable. And it's like you say, you lose track, you overwhelm and you burn out. So I think, again, it's coming back and going, right, let's look at what we realistically need to make progress. And like you say, how does that fit into your week? So again, a lot of the guys that we coach just have hectic schedules, and we would always love to, wouldn't we, recommend someone to go 5-6 days a week and really do that. But it's not the reality. So giving them the minimum dosage of what they need and really just you pushing the time into where we can be effective and what's actually going to yield results.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys that are drawn towards being coached inside the Mansformation, they're not necessarily looking for quick fixes either. They're looking for long-term sustainable results. They want to stay in good shape. They want to stay fit and healthy for the long term, because a lot of them are business owners, a lot of them are family men. They need energy for, other areas of life. They can't just go all in on a 12-week bodybuilding style prep and just hammer the ass out of it, training 2-3 times a day and zero carbs and all this stuff. It's not sustainable for them. So, we have, like you say, a couple of different variations of program, don't we? We've got like the 8-weeker, and then we've got the longer term Mansformation. And one thing that we really try to hammer home inside the 8-week program is that this is literally, it's not 8 weeks and done. This is 8 weeks to lay a foundation for longer term success. So, like you say, you're not going to get that long term success if what you're trying to do doesn't actually sink in with, the lifestyle that you've got currently. And it's not to say that you shouldn't expect not to have changes. You should expect changes. You should expect things to be different. But if it's too ridiculous to stick to, you're not going to stick to it. Certainly not for the long term anyway.
And I think we noticed that, didn't we? Originally when we was doing like 12 weeks, and that's why I went to the one-to-one coaching, was because your 8 weeks is only as good as the next 8. And I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but like you say, how many people go off and go, oh, I've solved everything, all my problems have gone. And it's like, it's easy while the accountability is there, but you do need that guidance, and that's someone just to keep you accountable onto the right track of going, yeah, you have got 2 parties this weekend. Maybe we need to do this differently through the week and not just go, I'll eat the same food and then go party my head off at the weekend and it's back to square one on Monday. The motivation still dips down, and that's what I wanted when obviously we were starting and we wanted to evolve the programme. We obviously sat and had the chat, and it was like, are we maybe could we do better if we obviously frame this as one-to-one coaching? There isn't actually no end goal, because we can get you a phenomenal result in 12 weeks, but again, it's only as good as the period after it, because if we don't maintain that and withstand the standards that we've upheld, it's soon going to diminish and we're going to go back to square one. So and I think we see greater results right now. With a lot of the guys that are there, we're not always 100% of the time pushing forward. And that's the beauty of the one-to-one coaching, that if in week 1 you come in and then something comes up with work or family, we can accommodate that and go, all right, then maybe the priority shifts this week and we've just got to do a little bit less in the gym.
You've got to look at maintenance at that point, right? Yeah. And maintenance itself is progress, because what would they have been doing when these things come up normally? They're taking
regression.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. They're taking 10 steps back. They're not, they're not going to the gym. They're just eating for convenience. They're just having a booze because they're getting stressed and stuff like that. Whereas actually, sometimes just being able to hold maintenance is way better than what they would be doing previously. And I think as well, one of the things that we like to look at when we do the planning sessions, and again, whether we're doing them or you're doing this for yourself, is looking at the different plans depending on different situations. Because a lot of the guys, again, that we work with will potentially work away. Some work from home, some do days in the office. So, so some have very different weekdays to weekends and stuff like this. So, it's not always one plan fits all, right?
No, and like you say, it completely depends on people's, like you say, if someone can train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then maybe a full body workout isn't right for them, because then we're just going to constantly move in the same movement patterns. If someone can train X amount of times as a certain workout plan that's better for them. So it all comes down to what space and what time they have got and where they can accommodate it. And that's, again, just getting to know what they can and can't do. And like you say, just really just making it fit. What's the saying? And then, like you say, back to cliches, it's, your life is meant to fit around fitness, not fitness fit around your life, sorry, or the other way around. It is a case of looking at say, we have a lot of guys that are in London Monday, Tuesday, so it's like, all right, you don't train in Monday, Tuesday. Well, yeah, I can. Yeah, well, I can. And it's like, yeah, but are you really going to go to the gym at 9 p.m. after getting off of a train from London's King Cross and really train intensely and execute that effectively? You're not going to. So it's like, we need to then, again, pull you back a little bit and go, be okay with doing nothing on that day other than your steps and your nutrition. Yeah. Well, I can only then train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, all right, that's fine. You can do that, but we've just got to manage that expectation.
Tailor that program around to where they're at, and like one of the things that and I love this saying when they say, your calendar has to align with your goals and with your priorities. So if you're coming on board, or again, if you're doing this on your own, if you're saying that you want to make a change physically, you want to improve fitness, you want to improve the strength, whatever the goal is, then you got to have those gym sessions in the diary. Okay, you've got to make sure that you've got time to eat through the day. You've got to have time to, if you're prepping your own meals, that you actually got time to do that. You've got to make sure that, if you want to, if you're serious about wanting to build muscle, you make sure you're getting your rest. All these things that have to be in play, and they have to be mapped out on people's plans, right? They need a place, and the way that I would look at it is, if we're doing a planning session, okay, when you've got work commitments, because most people, they can't move the time that they're working. Okay, maybe you're a business owner, maybe you can, but a lot of people, let's say for instance, they're working 9 till 5. They can't shift that. So that's locked in. That's that's non-negotiable. Maybe they've got certain commitments with the family that, I'm taking my son to after school club, or I always do the school run in the morning, whatever it might be. These might be things that are locked in and non-negotiable, or days that they've got to have the children, or stuff like this. And then after that, really, if your goal is, improving physically and building better habits around nutrition and training and stuff like this, then that's got to be the next thing that goes on in there, and you've got to find a place for it. Anything else can come after that, but it becomes down to a list of priorities, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And you've got to put in first what is most appropriate for the end goal. And like you say, the stuff that you can't, like we spoke about this in its seasons, there's going to be times where people want to push more. So if you've got a holiday coming up and it's like, I want to look in phenomenal shape for my holiday, you can't then follow that up by saying, but I'm also going to go out every weekend. It's like, you just can't do it. And it's like, what is more important? And you've got to sit down and do this with a lot of clients of like, what's more important, the way that you want to look for that holiday, or going out and getting pissed every weekend? Well, looking better for that holiday. All right, so we've got to obviously show a little bit of discipline and understand that that has got to go, because it's just not putting anything forward. It's not giving us any momentum. It's not giving us any progress. So it's just like you say, it's got to go. And there'll become a time and a place where you've done the holiday and you might go back into a bit of a maintenance phase where you've got that little bit more of a luxury, but right now you haven't got it.
Yeah. And when we are creating these plans, we've got to look at different areas for plans as well, because it's not just, it is one overall plan, but it's broken down into sections, really. And you've got things like, you've got to incorporate the nutrition plan. So again, not just the food that you're actually eating, but when you're eating it, when you're prepping it, all this sort of thing needs to be taken into consideration. Obviously, the training plan, okay, that might incorporate sessions in the gym, that might incorporate steps, whatever it might be, doing a separate cardio session, you might be doing a class here and there, whatever it might be, that then needs its place in there as well. One thing that people overlook is a recovery plan. So, kind of combine, I suppose, recovery and sleep, because sleep needs its own plan as well. But yeah, like you say, again, when people come into the program and they're so focused on pushing hard, they kind of forget that recovery is super important, especially as you get 40 and onwards, probably younger, really, depending on how hard you're training and what the goals are. But they need a space as well. And then you've got, just like you said there about, going out on a weekend, your overall lifestyle plan. Okay, when can you say yes to situations and events and stuff like this? And when do you have to say no? Or not necessarily saying no to the event, but saying no to drinking at the event, or saying no to overeating at the event, because so many people do put having a good time with overeating and over drinking, right? So you've got to kind of break it down into those areas. And I think the more detail that you can go into when you're trying to design a plan, and you can really break down these subsections and really go into detail them, then the more clarity you're going to get, because, clarity comes from having a proper plan. And if you're very clear on the actions that you need to be doing, because you took the time to plan properly, that's just going to give you a better payoff at the end, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's something that we're always quite big on as well in the programme. Like, when obviously someone gets to put the plans, we always give them a video of talking them through why we're doing it, and always try to go above and beyond and explain. We're not just asking you to do it this way because that's what we want you to do. Obviously showing the reason behind it. So like, I was talking to a client this week about obviously recovery protocols, and they were saying I can do more. And I was like, I understand that you can do more, but like you've just mentioned of age, becoming over 45, closer to 50 years old, we've got to understand that without recovery, we're not going to build muscle. So it's like just going in and training that muscle day in, day out, day in, day out. There's never a time for that muscle to recover, replenish, and actually grow. So it's a case of understanding that and explaining to them, like, this is why we want you to do it. I'm not, like you say, doing it because I think it's hilarious to say, do less. There's a reason behind that. But again, we go above and beyond to obviously explain that to them so they understand it, and it's not just a case of we just want them to do less.
Yeah. So kind of to wrap it up, guys, because like you say, we're not going to make these super long podcasts. We just wanted to kind of touch base, and this is probably, it's short and it's sweet and it's straight to the point, but it's also, this is your starting point. Like, this is where it all starts, is by putting the plan together, okay? Like, obviously, you've had the idea in your mind of how you want to look or to feel, or how strong you want to be and stuff like this. You've now got to put that, that goal down on paper and build the plan out from it. So we always start at this point, is why we made this the first podcast. And really, like you say, just to kind of bullet point some things there, making sure that your calendar aligns with the goals, making sure that you're not setting unrealistic expectations. for what it is you can achieve. Actually having a little bit of patience as well with the plan. I think that's really, really important. And like you say, trusting the process. You know, obviously if we come and do your plan, we've done this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So, you know, you can trust in that process. It's a little bit more difficult sometimes, I think, when you are trying to do it on your own or you don't have anybody there to guide you, because sometimes it is a little bit of guesswork. Sometimes it is a little bit of trial and error. So you can't always have full confidence in the process. But certainly if you can, you know, follow something that you know is going to work, you just have to be patient with it, you know. But it all starts, like I say, with actually building the plan. And yeah.
Just to start, obviously, as a little bit of a leaving note of obviously how it can potentially help yourself if you are building your own plan. So just look at your life and look at what you've got and look at where you want to be in 6 months' time, and just write down everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, from work, from training, from family, to socialising, to drinking, to eating certain food types. What is not serving you or serving a purpose to where you want to be in 6 months' time? Remove them things. Like, it's probably not ideal to remove everything at once. Some people get away with it, but some people will just end up overwhelmed. So remove the one that's the easiest for you at that start point. It might be drink, it might be just going out, or it might just be starting training. Do that for a period of time, see your results, and then add something else in. And it is just a case of trial and error. If something isn't working, just look and go, why is that not working, and what can I do a little bit differently? And just keep going through that until you get to where you want to be.
And I think as well, like actually reverse engineering from the goal. So if you've set the goal at the start and then you've got to build that plan around the goal, actually looking at where you want to be and what, how you want to be looking, how fit you want to be, what weight loss is, that sort of thing. And then reverse engineer how you're going to actually do that. So, that can kind of bring you back to exactly where you're at right now. And it just puts you in a little bit better position to push on and start.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right, guys, we're going to leave that one there. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.